Here we go. In three, two, one. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Back to Bits podcast, the retro gaming podcast presented by the Gamers Lounge. My name is John Meadows. With me, as always, is Danny, D-Pad Danny. How's it going, man? I'm good. I'm real good. We're streaming. We're streaming it live for a change. You know, it's something new. I thought, yeah, we can always use more stream time on the old Twitch page. We don't get enough stream stuff, so no, it doesn't hurt at all. Um, Nathaniel made us this nice little overlay, and we got everything finally working after about half hour. There's nothing like being prepared. As they always say, it's very important to be prepared. But guess what? I'm never prepared till the last minute. So very rarely, anyway. But oh, that's all right. It's no big deal. It's usually we can hear Eric typing on the podcast all the time. All you hear is from him because he's always tweeting and making deals and stuff's going down while he's recording the podcast, so it's no big deal. No big deal at all. Plus I know you got the mic hanging on the laptop there probably, so that always that always doesn't help either, so but anyway, we'll get started like we always do off the top of the show. If we've got anything new or exciting that we've picked up, you got some Atari 2600 games. I saw your picture a little while ago. Somehow I missed that on my Twitter feed. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, they're horrible. I need to start buying some. Trouble is around here is everybody says, "Oh, Atari, it's worth like $400." No, no, it's really not. It's not worth. Yeah, yeah, and it's like, no, no, it's really not worth that much, guys. I can give you $20, and then they get insulted, and then they're like, no, I'm not. So it's like, whatever. So I haven't bought any Atari games, but I need to, especially with, well, we talked about the last show with that Retron 77 coming out. It might be a cool time to try to get some of those old games to play that I haven't played since I was a kid. Yeah, yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me if it doesn't shoot up a little bit, but yeah, I wouldn't think so. May go up and then flatten back out again. So, but yeah, I thought that was cool. I saw that on Twitter this afternoon. Somehow I'd missed it. I don't know. My Twitter feed's weird on my phone, so sometimes I see stuff and sometimes I don't. And I'm like, oh look, you got some Atari, and there were some really good ones in there. I mean, there were some really fun ones in there. Yeah. So, but anything else? Anything else cool that you've? You can never have enough power cords. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the other day I picked up a Genesis lot. There was a guy selling some Genesis games for $30, and it was mostly like Madden. He had like one, two, three, four, five Madden games in it, and hockey. But the two games that was definitely in it that caught my attention was Michael Jackson's Moonwalker and Risky Woods. I'd never heard of Risky Woods, and I looked it up, and it's like an EA game. It's like a side scroller beat 'em up almost kind of thing. It was it looks like a PC game. It's very PC-ish, but there was a lot of those old EA games on the Genesis. It was, but it's like you have like magic and stuff like that. It's almost like Castlevania meets uh, like I won't say Metroid, but it's almost like a platformer, but it's set in like a Castlevania. There's spells and there's magic and there's it's a really cool game, and yeah, and I mean for the deal, and I mean there was Road Rash and NBA Jam was in there and everything. Now that you see it, it's like, oh yeah, Yeah. Yeah, and I mean for $30 for the whole lot. I mean the Michael Jackson's Moonwalker alone was worth that. So it was like, well, I'll pick it up because I'd always wanted to get Michael Jackson again. I had that game when I was a kid, and I always thought it was a blast. But really, it's corny, but it's cool because it's all it's dancing, magic, and beat 'em up kind of thing. But I mean, it was a fun game, and like I said, I remember playing it all the time as a kid, and that thing. A box copy of that game is worth like $90 now. I mean, it's ridiculous. Um, but yeah, so I picked it up, and then there was Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Sonic 2, Judge Dredd. Yeah, and I kept Risky Woods and Michael Jackson and sold the rest of them to a buddy of mine. Road Rash was in there too, but I already had it. And but yeah, I mean, a little pickup. I haven't seen too much. The well kind of goes dry around here for a couple months, and then all of a sudden they dump them back out again. I've seen a couple good lots up here this weekend, but I'm like, I don't want to buy a lot with 41 games and 3 systems, and I don't want. I'm tired. I'm tired of getting systems and then trying to get rid of them. Yeah, right. Not the small one. Yeah. 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 Yeah, and they're full of bugs and everything else. You know they are. They always are. You can shake a PlayStation 2 and bugs will fall out of it and stuff. So. No, no, you don't. And that's what I say. I've kind of gotten tired of buying. There for a while it was like, ooh, here's a lot of games, 40, 50 games in a system. I'll buy it, keep the games I want, sell the games to a buddy of mine, and then sell the system. And that's just like, man, it's just so much hassle. I'm a member of 3 different Facebook groups, trade groups, and it's just like, man, I don't feel like messing with it anymore. Just buy. I just want to buy the games that I want out of the lot, and the heck with it. Like the guy that was selling this one was like $250. It was like 3 Genesis, 41 games, yeah, Genesis, I guess, Genesis, and then it was let's see what else there was. A Dreamcast, a Game Gear with a bunch of games, and a bunch of controllers and stuff like that. And I mean, it was a good deal for $250, but by the time I piece all that out and then try to sell it to just get one game, it's just like, forget it. I am. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, it's just not worth it anymore, and it's like if it was just a bunch of games, fine, or yeah, but when you get systems in the mix, it's like I don't even want to mess with it anymore because I've already got 3 Genesis. I got a Model 1, 2, and 3. I got a Model 1 and a Model 2 CD. I don't need any more. My buddy's got a Model 2. He doesn't want any more, so it's not like I can just say, see ya, sell it to him or something. So it's just like, forget it. I'll just I just send them a message and say, hey, if you decide to split them up, let me know, and I want this one game. Yeah, yeah, and it's like it's like I was like maybe well, whatever. I'll just sell me that one. And one out of 41 games. Are you really going to notice that big of a difference? But I don't know. People are funny that way, so whatever. It is what it is. Yeah. Well, I can hear you, but it's not. OBS isn't picking it up for some reason. Hang on, let's see what's up with that. I don't know. Um, yes. Nope. Yep. Oh, hang
on
a second.
stream.
Let's
People
see.
couldn't hear that.
There we go. It was set to default. Now you could probably hear Danny.
Stomp once if you can hear me.
Yeah, anybody on the live stream that could not hear Danny, you should now be able to hear Danny. I don't know what was up with that, but the desktop audio was set as default, and it was not set as desktop audio. So,
all right.
Thank you, Craftman, for letting me know that. I appreciate that. So,
well, to recap, I got some Atari games and some NES controllers.
Yeah. Nothing. You haven't missed out on anything.
And a crunchy PS2.
And a crunchy PS2. Yeah, so we've all had crunchy PS1s and PS2s, and I've got a couple of crunchy Saturns here. I actually have 3 Sega Saturns now.
Nice. I've had 2 come through the house. One of them had some like tar on it or something. It's harder than hell to scrub off. But I gave it to my buddy. He gave me a PS2 when I needed one, and he didn't have a Saturn. I was like, here, if you want to finish scrubbing this off, I mean, I don't feel like messing with it.
Yeah.
So.
Definitely CD-based systems. I have definitely gotten out of the business of buying lots of CD-based systems. So,
yeah.
Cartridge-based, okay, I might go for it. There's a couple of revisions of the Super NES motherboard on the first one that's supposed to have a better RGB output than some of the others, but you'd actually have to take the system apart, and it's like, do I really want to buy every Super NES I can send to bring it home, take it apart, and go, nope, that's not it. Nope, that's not it. Nope, that's not it. It's like, man,
right.
If I come across one, fine. If not, no big deal. But yeah. So, have you been playing any games lately?
Yeah, I have. Sure, yeah. So I started a Final Fantasy VI or Final Fantasy III Super Nintendo save file not long ago, and I just kind of started it on a whim, and I was like, man, I'm really enjoying this. So I've been playing through that. I hadn't played it in about 2 weeks because I got on a Mega Man kick. Dude, Mega Man, it's awesome, dude. So like, I've been streaming Mega Man. I started with the first one. I beat 1 and 2 in one night, and I was like, all right, next time I'll stream 3. 3 took me 3 sessions because it's way long. And then I did 4 and 5, and then I did 6 and most of 7 last night. So after that, I'm going to be playing 8, and I guess I'm going to download 9 so I can play that as well. Yeah. But yeah, so I've been playing a lot of Mega Man and a little bit of Final Fantasy. What about you? What have you been playing lately?
I've been playing that Death and Return of Superman on the Genesis.
Nice.
I've been playing it. It looked real. I got it in a tray, or I bought it a couple of weeks ago in that lot that we talked about, and I actually sat down and played. It's actually a fun beat 'em up. I love beat 'em ups, and I didn't realize that it was one. I didn't realize it was a beat 'em up. 2, I didn't realize it was really that good. And 3, it's made by Blizzard, so it's just that's pretty good.
Yeah, I've always heard good things about that one, so I mean, I'd like to try it at some point, but it's not one I've gotten yet.
Yeah, it's actually a really fun game because it's like I think it's like 5 or 6 levels if I remember right, and each level you play as a different Superman, and then at the end you play it. But I mean, it's got little it almost looks like pre-rendered comic book drawings in between. It's really not drawings, but they
like
look
still images or whatever.
They're look like they're right out of a comic book.
That's cool.
It's actually really, really good. And then surprisingly, when I watch your streams, usually I end up wanting to play whatever you've been playing. It was the Castlevania games is what I played, but when you were playing Mega Man, I went, nah, I'm not. Mega Man games they're too hard for me, so I just throw my hands up and say, nope, I'm done with it. I can't do the Mega Man games. I just get too frustrated with them.
That's fair. That's absolutely fair.
I've been playing Castlevania. What's funny is I've been playing Castlevania 3, and I have the original carts over there, but I've been playing it on my EverDrive so I can use save states. So
right, Castlevania 3 is no joke. I've not beaten that game yet. That is a tough game.
Yeah, it is. It is
and
really
it's long
tough.
too.
Yeah, and that's what I've noticed. It's way longer than 2 was. But it was like, man, I went through and beat 2. And then started playing 3, and then when I realized it was a lot longer, I was like, man, I don't have time to sit and play it. I got, and you can't use save states, so I was like, well, let me fire it up on the EverDrive, and then I can just use save states as I go. So when I get a few minutes to play, I can play that. Trouble is this week the Destiny beta came out for PlayStation 4, so. My buddies, when they're not working, they're like, hey, come play the beta. I'm like, yeah, dude, we played it like 17 times, and it's the same thing over and over and over again. Because
it's a beta. I mean, there's only so much content they're throwing out.
It's not that long, but
and
they're like, no, let's play it again. I'm like, why? We keep getting stuff that we're not going to be able to keep. It's like,
ooh, look at this rare drop. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's gone. It's gone at the end of the weekend. So. But, it's fun to play it again, I guess.
Sure.
But so I figured we'd start off with just some quick news, that has come out since the last time we recorded. Because the main thing is the Super NES Classic Edition was announced. I'm not going to say who said it probably would never happen, but because I don't name names. But
sure. Mm-hmm. All right. To be fair, I made some valid points on why I thought that they wouldn't do it. But you know what? They did it, and I gotta say, the lineup is solid.
Yeah,
that's one sexy lineup. It really is.
The one question I have is I wonder, have you ever played a ROM of Star Fox 2?
I have not, but I know that you can get like reproduction cartridges. I think the ROM surfaced sometime in the early 2000s, like 2002 or something like that.
If I remember right, it's only like about 90 or 95% finished. I don't think it's complete. It's almost complete. I don't remember. It's been a long time since I played it.
I'm not sure.
And then I don't even remember if I played it completely all the way through or not. So, but I don't know. It's going to be real interesting because it's like, will they actually go back and finish that up, or will it just be that rough ROM like we all have downloaded, or
maybe they'll like cut whatever the last couple areas are that are partially finished and just kind of put a quick summarizer at the end and I don't know. I
don't know. It's weird. I'm anxious to find out. I'm anxious to know, and we probably won't know until we get it. I ended up pre-ordering the European version,
right?
Because Amazon over here didn't, they didn't. They haven't. I don't think they've taken pre-orders for it. They may have. I'm not sure. I know GameStop hasn't, or anybody else. But it's. I thought, well, at least I can get one. So it is the Famicom version, and my thing is if I do get a Super NES and I don't have to worry about the Famicom one, I can cancel it or order it from Amazon. I can send it back, or somebody might buy it, And if I would sell it, I would not sell it. I wouldn't sell it crazy $200 or whatever. I would sell it for whatever I have in it.
Right. Well, I believe Nintendo said that they're going to try to make these more readily available. They're going to produce a lot more quantity than they did with the NES Minis.
Yes.
So I don't think you'll see the prices get as crazy. Now, that as qualifier is a biggie because people are still going to buy a bunch of them. They're still going to try to hike the price up. Yep. And it will be a substantial amount more than the retail price. But I don't think it'll get into the crazy numbers like we saw with the NES Mini for like $250, $300. I don't think
it will either.
I mean, I've been wrong before, as we all know.
Not pointing fingers.
Yeah, just hit my cord. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
But for those of you that don't know what the lineup is, I have it right here. I'll happily read it off to you.
$79.99, available September 29th, and then you can go ahead and read off the lineup because it's a really good lineup.
It is a really good lineup. You got Contra 3: The Alien Wars. You got Donkey Kong Country, Earthbound, which is kind of surprising, but it's also my favorite game of all time. So if you haven't played it, find some way to play it and do so. Yeah. Final Fantasy 3, also a fantastic game. You have F-Zero, Kirby's Superstar, Kirby's Dream Course, which I thought was kind of an odd choice because it's like a putt-putt kind of game.
Yeah, that one was a weird one to me.
It's charming, but well, it is what it is. You got Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, which is my favorite Zelda.
Yeah, I like that one a lot.
It's so good. You got Mega Man X, Secret of Mana, Star Fox 2, previously unreleased, other than ROMs on the internet, as mentioned previously. Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Hyper Fighting, Super Castlevania 4, Super Ghouls and Ghosts, Super Mario Kart, Super Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars, which is a big deal because this is... Well, no, they put it on Virtual Console. I was going to say this is the first time they've released it since Super Nintendo, but they did put it on the Wii U.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
You got Super Mario World, Super Metroid, Super Punch-Out, and Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. Yeah. That is a strong lineup.
It is, and there is some expensive games in there. I mean,
right.
Jeez, I mean, Mega Man X always goes for a lot. Of course, Earthbound and does. Contra 3's up there in price. Final Fantasy 3 is up there. Secret of Mana.
Yep.
Super Ghouls of Ghost isn't cheap anymore. Super Castlevania is pretty expensive too.
Yeah, I had to rebuy that when it was like $40. I'm like, this shouldn't be more than 20. I mean, what's Super Metroid's really spiked quite a bit too. That one's going for like 65, which is nuts.
That one has too. And I used to have a box copy of that, and I think I sold it 6 or 7 years ago for like $50 or something like that, and that was right before like Super Nintendo prices went through the roof. Craffen points out that no Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I kind of figured that one would be on there.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, that is a staple, and that is one that a lot of people hold in high regard. I enjoy it. I think it's a little bit overrated, but it's a very well-made game. That's another topic for another day. But I mean, I think the fact that it probably came down to they wanted, what could they get licensing for, and what for the sake of variety. You don't want to have like, hey, here's 20 Square games, and so I think Final Fantasy 3 and Secret of Mana is pretty good. And then throwing in Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars is also, that kind of kicks it up that extra notch. So I can understand how people would be disappointed or even surprised that Chrono Trigger isn't on there. Yeah. I mean, what they're providing is still pretty good. And you might notice it's 9 games less, because it's 21 games, and the NES game Classic had 30.
Yeah. But this one comes with 2 controllers. So there's your extra $10 probably.
Yep, it comes with 2 controllers, and they said that they're making the cords longer because I guess, that was a big issue with the NES Mini.
Right. Yeah, and they said that according to the PR email that they sent out, they said they would be producing them till the end of the year as far as production goes. So there'll probably be a good chance for people to get them. They still will, I'm sure they'll still sell quick, but it may be something that you might be able to get a little easier than the NES Classics were.
Right.
Because they only did 2 batches of those, and they were way spread apart. So,
So like I said, hopefully the scalping prices won't be too crazy on these, and that everyone will hopefully be able to get one in their hands,
Yeah, I hope so. That was the scalping. Still, the scalpers with the NES Classics are just unbelievable. I mean, still over $200. That's just crazy.
It's insane. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And it's like I said. I know I've told the story on the other podcast how I got mine, and I got real lucky. So for it to be going for that much money still is crazy. But hopefully, I'm hoping that somebody will open up. The rumor that I've heard, the reason that they haven't opened up pre-orders is the same reason they haven't opened up pre-orders on the Xbox One X yet, is because they are still waiting on FCC approval for the system. So maybe once you hear that, then,
they'll get that call. We are a go. Start pumping them out.
So, but and that's the other thing that Electromaster says. There's a lot of RPGs in there. If you throw in, Chrono Trigger on top of that, then you're really dumping in RPGs, and you don't want to go too heavy, but you want to try to get a nice splash of games. But there wasn't really any sports games other than Super Punch Out. So. But I mean, really, do we need any other sports games than Super Punch Out? Really, I mean.
And I was looking and thinking that, it doesn't have any puzzle games either. But then, when you think about it, there wasn't really a definitive puzzle game for the Super Nintendo. I mean, maybe Tetris Attack could have been a good addition.
And that was on the Japanese version? The Famicom, the Japanese version had a couple different games. I know there was a Fire Emblem game on there, and I want to say that the Tetris Attack was on there, but I could be wrong.
I'm not sure,
but I know Japanese tastes are a little different than everywhere else in the world. So as many Fire Emblem games as they had on Super Nintendo, they would have to have one on the Super NES for the
because
Famicom.
Yeah, because we didn't get it that series until Game Boy Advance and GameCube days. So it makes sense that they'd get some games on theirs that they got in the '90s that we missed out on. So.
Yeah. And the other thing that kind of came out, there was a 3D rendering of this Atari box that nobody knows anything about or exactly what it is. It's other than the fact that it's going to play, the rumor is it's going to play Atari games, classic games, and then it's also going to play modern games. Now, whether that means if it's going to be
like a Steam box.
Yeah, an Android box or something like that. To me, it sounds like it's going to be a Ouya with an Atari look to it. Is what it sounds to me like. So,
but with a cartridge slot as well to justify the Atari name.
Well, I guess, but I mean, on that 3D rendering, there was no cartridge slot on it. It was just HDMI, the 4 USB ports, the power port. 3 little lights on the front for what controllers you were using, but there was no cartridge slot on it that I saw. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's so weird, and I'm wondering if we're all just being jerked around or something.
Well, if this is going to be another Coleco Chameleon, someone's just putting out a gag like, watch all these guys scramble.
Well, there is there is the Blade Runner movie coming out in October, and that was heavily laden in Blade Runner with Atari logos and things like that. It wouldn't surprise me if, something like that would. Oh, there's a movie coming out. It's got Atari. Look, here's,
I think it's just like a publicity thing to plug the movie.
Who knows? I mean, there's they sent a press email to our email, and it's like, we don't mean to jerk you around, but here's some renders of what it's going to look like, but we're still not telling you what it does. I'm like, then why?
Hey, not to jerk you around, but we're going to jerk you around.
Yeah, but we're going to anyway. Not to do it, but we're going to. It's like, what the crap? I don't know. It's really strange. It's very, very weird, but who knows what it's going to end up being. And it'll probably be something that nobody's going to care about other than to play maybe some Atari games. I don't know. But, Atari emulators are so easy to come by these days. It's like, really...
I mean, is there even a market for this?
Yeah. And then every year they bring out those flashback consoles. And then you got the Retron, like we were talking a little while ago, you got the Retron 77 coming out. So it's like you can get your Atari just about anywhere. So, I don't know. Yeah, that's another thing Electric Maestro says. No beat-em-ups. Yeah,
Turtles in Time would be a good one. And R-Type or even Gradius would be a good one. And speaking of which, really quick before we move on, I'm going not to go back to the Super, not to jerk you around, but to jerk you around. So I found it interesting that with Konami's poor business decisions, that they allowed. Let me look at the list. How many we got here? We got 1, 2, 3 Konami games on there. You got Contra 3, you got Super Castlevania 4, you got Super Ghouls and Ghosts. I'm surprised that they even let Nintendo get the licensing for that, because Konami's been a real dick of a company lately.
Yeah, they really have. Yeah, you're right.
So, I mean, just the fact that they would even that kind of surprises me. Yeah. That surprises me. That's all. And we can move on. I don't want to tie us up.
No, but you're right. You're right. It's Konami's so weird, and I wonder if maybe some of these games Nintendo had more rights to than Konami did, since it was it's licensing on their system was so weird back then. Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, the way Konami's been about things, it's like, why is there so many? I don't know. When Konami does old stuff, they're all in it. But anything new, then Konami goes, it's like...
Don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. Those are 3 great games.
Oh, yeah.
But,
absolutely.
It just surprised me is all.
Yeah, it did me
too. Like the existence of the Super NES Classic in itself.
Yeah, well, that's true. No, not pointing any fingers.
No.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Nice.
But anyway, I thought maybe this episode we talk a little bit about the state of the of retro gaming and the retro collecting market. I've seen a lot of YouTubers and articles online talking about how retro game collecting is kind of slowing down and people aren't buying as much as they usually are. I don't find that at all true. I mean, maybe in certain areas of the country it's like that, but like I said at the top of the show when we were talking about what we picked up and stuff, I'm a member of 3 Facebook groups with thousands of people on them who do nothing but trade retro games all day long. Yeah. Yep. And I mean, we're not talking just Super Mario World and Mario Brothers 3 on the NES. I mean, some of the games that they put up on there, I mean, they're high dollar, $400 or $500 games, and people are buying them. I mean, that's the thing. So I find it hard to believe that the retro market is slowing down.
I don't believe that for one bit.
I
think it's as strong as ever.
I mean, especially
Sorry.
No, go ahead. You're fine.
Especially, with, you have older people who are, like us that want to play the games that they played when they were kids.
Yeah.
And then, some of them have teenage and adult kids, adult kids. Yeah,
well,
that's right. Adult kids.
Kids having kids.
Right. And, they get interested from watching and experiencing it. So, when they get older and they get their own disposable income, they're like, oh, well, I want to have my own little collection as well. So that's definitely pushing it. I don't think it's slowing down at all. If anything, it's stronger than ever.
Yeah, and disposable income is a big word right there. I mean, there's a lot of young people that have disposable incomes these days,
right?
Especially when they get out of college, they get a high-paying job, and they have a lot of disposable income. I see it all the time. I don't have a lot of disposable income because I don't have a high-paying job, but I may live like I have a high-paying job, but I really don't. No, I don't live that way. That's not right. But I guess going back to certain areas maybe leveling off. I wonder if it's maybe leveling off on certain consoles. Maybe that's what it is. I've recently it seems like, and I don't know how much you keep up with the prices of things. It seems like the NES has kind of dropped off and kind of leveled off on prices of things. Things that were worth a whole lot, have kind of come down. And I don't know if that's a sign of maybe the NES Classic bringing, some of these high price games down. If it's a sign that some of these people who are collectors that collect full sets have found their full sets and they've moved on to Super Nintendo. Or N64, because N64s seem to pick up a lot. Prices in N64 are starting to spike, and I think that, and it may be a generational thing. That generation now that liked N64 is now out in the workforce making money, and then that's their retro console.
Right.
Where it's not my retro console, but it's still retro, but. I don't know if it's something like that. I mean, because it seems like here recently, it seems like Genesis games have went up. So I'm wondering if more collectors are maybe shifting from one to the other. That's causing the market to kind of change. I don't know if something like that, if that would even happen or.
Well, it's possible. I mean, as far as the NES prices, I don't think they're tapering off. I see games fluctuate all the time. It's just a natural influx, but overall, they are getting more expensive. You see common games like, for example, Darkwing Duck. No reason that should be any more than a $15 game. That's going for like $55 now.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Crazy. Yeah.
As far as Sega games, it very well may be. Maybe it's the Sega kids are getting older, wanting to play the games, or maybe somebody finished some collection and they want to move on. Usually you want to do a lateral move, right? So if you're collecting NES games and you're done with that, you're like, okay, well maybe I'll check out the Sega Master System.
Right.
That's a lateral move. Or if you're collecting Super Nintendo and you finish that up, well maybe I'll check out Sega Genesis and see what they got, or TurboGrafx 16. So I mean maybe people are collecting more Sega games, but I've noticed an increase in those prices as well, especially when you're considering ones that are still in the clamshell, or especially in the cardboard cases, because those did not last.
Yeah, well, it's like I have a copy of Jurassic Park for the Genesis, and it's in the cardboard, and it's not worth a whole lot, but on the rarity scale, if you look on most websites, the rarity scale of that game is like a 10 out of 12, and it's like, why is it so rare? Oh, it's because it's in a cardboard box. That's what makes it so rare. It's not the cart is rare, it's the box is rare. Well, it's like it's like the Michael Jackson's Moonwalker that I got. I bought it, and then I have some extra empty boxes around, so I went on eBay, and for $13, I bought the original cover art for it. So I paid roughly like $4 for the game, $13 for the cover art. Immediately right there, the price jacks up to worth about $50 if you go on price charting. If you add the instruction book with it, then you get another $30 out of it, and that bumps you up to like $85. It's like, I don't even understand. But the one thing that, and we were going to talk about it on down here, things affecting prices, that's, that's what I go by is price charting. I know some people use some of the other ones. There's several of them out there. But,
I usually stick to price charting as well. And another good one is just to check eBay listings, make sure you filter it by sold and compare the quality or the condition of the items to find one that's closely to yours, and that's another way you can kind of tell, because price charting can be off. It can fluctuate so much that its algorithms or whatever may not be 100% accurate, but it's still a decent baseline to go by.
Well, and it's based off of majority of is off of eBay. So if you only have one sale, like I got a complete box copy of Bucky O'Hare I bought from Robert, who works on the website. He cleaned out when his father passed away. They cleaned out his house, sent him a box, and he said, I've got some games, I don't want them. I said, well, I'll take them. What do you got? And he's like, a box copy of Bucky O'Hare. I'm like, criminy sakes, man, I would love to have it, but I can't afford it. It's too expensive. And he's like, no, I'll give you a good deal on it. Well, when I bought it, all the games, I think I paid $150 for the whole bunch of games, and that game was in it. And the day he sent it to me, it was worth, according to price charting, it was worth about $315. By the time it got here, and 3 days later, it was only worth like $220, and then it went back up to $275. So it's like, if they're only selling one a month on eBay, it's kind of the prices will fluctuate, ebb and flow really bad.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like the algorithm's not like perfect.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's a weird thing to try to price things out. It's kind of supply and demand, but it's like Electric said too. He's like, his theory is people, if anything, people should collect what they want to and have fun with. That's exactly what I do. I don't have a huge collection. I mean, I have maybe, I think the last count was 575 retro games, something like that, from PlayStation 2 down, or Dreamcast down. And, but I only collect what I want. If I see something and I go, ooh, that looks really cool, I want that game. There's, and I know you're making a full NES set. So, you're trying to get every NES game that you can get your hands on to flesh out that set. So,
right. I'm trying to get as close as I can, granted, but I'm not so naive to think that I'll ever own either a NWC cart or stadium events. Right. I might get up to where I can, have my big number one game be like a Samson. If I save up and stuff for a little while, I could probably afford to get a Samson at some point. But there's no way I can afford like a $10,000 to $30,000 game. That's just off the table altogether. I'm not freaking doing it.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Nuts. Yeah, I mean it's crazy.
Sorry, to go back to your point, you were talking about how it's hard to price things out.
Yeah.
It's that brings up a good point about when you're purchasing a game. It's like if you're watching a game that you really want, you see the price go up, you see the price go down. It's really hard to gauge, to know what's going to go up in price and what's going to go down in price. Like, I saw somebody mention Panic Restaurant. I happen to own a copy of Panic Restaurant. The label's a little bit messed up, but it is a legit copy.
Right.
I bought mine about 2 or 3 years ago for $250. It's the most I've ever spent on anything, any of my video games, any consoles, anything. $250. Now it's worth like $550.
Right.
So it was a good buy overall, but it's like, did I know at the time it was going to skyrocket like that? No.
Oh, no.
I mean, for all I know, it could have gone down and be worth $100 like 2 months later. It's just really, you just never know. So you got to use your best judgment.
It's like playing stock market.
Right, exactly.
I mean, it's the exact same thing.
Yeah, it's like, how do you estimate what's going to be big next month?
Well, and the thing is, it's just like buying a brand new video game. You can go out and buy, Splatoon 2 came out for the Switch. I think $60. Well, that may be a bad example because Nintendo games never drop.
They hold their value. Yeah. Nintendo brand IPs. Yeah.
Call of Duty, let's just say, or Madden Football, or Call of Duty.
Madden is a great example.
You come out and buy Madden at $60. October or August 25th when it comes out. And then by the time Christmas rolls around at the end of the football season, usually it's down to about $40 or $30. And then by the time summer rolls around, you can get it for $20. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of the same thing. You kind of lose as you go down, but I don't know. It's such a weird, my example of buying a game is 1997, 98. I paid $75 or $80 for Panzer Dragoon Saga on eBay, and I thought I was out of my flipping mind.
Oh, goodbye, sir. Good purchase.
But who knew at that time that there was only 20,000 copies of that in the world? Right. And I literally, played it, got done with it, put it in the box with all my other Saturn games, and put them in the closet for. Then I got married, and we moved to North Carolina, and 12 years later, or 10 years later, I pull it out and I go, man, I want to put all my games out for display. And somebody goes, is that a copy of Panzer Dragoon Saga? I went, yeah.
Are you shitting me?
Yeah, they're like, you know how much that thing's worth? And I go, I don't know. I paid $85 for it. They're like, that thing's worth like $500. And all of a sudden, it's just like, I'm not touching it. Oh my gosh, I'm going to break it.
I need to put it in a case. I don't even want to breathe on it.
It's going to fall
Don't
apart.
look at it. Don't look at it.
It's like, but 15, 20 years ago, did I ever imagine that game would be worth? No. If that had been the case, I would have bought up every freaking game that I ever saw at a flea market that people were selling for $1 a pop. Here's a good story for you. Walked in, there was a place down in West Virginia. It's called Magic Mart. This was 1997-98. I literally walked into the store and they still had the old time display with the plastic glass with the circles cut in it so you can stick your hand in and pull the game.
Nice.
Full of original NES games sealed. Zeldas, Mario's, Punch-Outs, all of them. And they were all $20. And at the time, retro gaming wasn't that big. And I went, I'd really like to buy one of each of those, but I just don't have that kind of money. And we were driving down the road the other day and passed a Magic Mart, and I looked at my wife and I went, you know what gripes my gears or grinds my gears is I wish I could go back 20 years ago and tell myself to buy that entire case for however much it was, because I don't know where those games ended up. They may have ended up in a landfill somewhere as far as that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same as, if you had the hindsight to go back and say, hey, what's game's going to be really popular? Little Samson. I know it's only going for like $20 because no one's buying it, but buy as many as you can find.
Yeah, trust me.
Because your kids are going to have to go to college.
I was going to say, you'll put your kids through college. But, I mean, but I guess that's the fun thing about collecting games. You never know. You just stumble onto a game one day and somebody's, wants $5 for it, and you get it home and you're like, oh, I've never heard of this game. And then you actually start looking and you're like, whoa, that game's worth like $50. I mean, I
love those surprise finds. You buy a lot and you're like, this is an $80 game. Holy shit. I paid $30 for the lot.
Yeah.
That's what happened with me in Swordmaster. I didn't know what the hell that game was. I brought it home, cleaned it, tried it. It works. Went to price all my stuff for my spreadsheet or whatever. And I was like, whoa. Yeah. Pleasantly surprised.
I did that with Eternal Masters or Elemental Masters on the Genesis. It was just the woman, I bought a whole lot of them for $30, and the lady was like, "Oh, just throw this one in." All right, it looks kind of cool, and it's
like an $80 game.
Yeah, and I'm like, "Holy crap!" Which that's one thing that you brought up. Could YouTubers, could that affect prices of games?
Yeah. Short answer, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. Some of your bigger YouTubers, little YouTubers like me or you, I mean,
not as much.
Not as much, but you get somebody like Pat, the NES Punk, or I'm trying to think of some of the others just right off the top of my head. Classic Game Room,
James Rolfe, Pro Jared, the Completionist.
Yeah, if
one of them does a game that no one's ever heard of, everyone's gonna be freaking buying that game. Everybody. Oh, that game looked really fun. I'm gonna see how much it is. Oh, it's only $20. A week later, oh, it's only $50.
Yeah.
It absolutely can happen.
Yeah, it totally. Yeah, I could totally see that. Mm-hmm. And that's funny though. That and it makes me want to run out and just say, here, just do an experiment. Take this really crappy game and tell people it's great, and let's see what happens. I don't know them. I don't know any of them that well, so I can't say that. But now, do you use any? Do you use anything on your phone to track your games or price them while you're out or anything like that?
I keep a formatted spreadsheet on Google Docs so I can pull it up on my phone when I'm out and about to see do I have this game, or do I have notes in it to say I need a label upgrade or whatever. But I don't use any app or anything. I just use a spreadsheet. A buddy at work helped me build out with some formulas to tally up the games, tally up the prices, list them by groups as far as how many games and what total price for each system, and then a master total.
Yeah.
So it works pretty well.
I use it's called Pure Gaming. They have different apps for different consoles, so I just bought all the apps for the consoles that I have. Actually, about half of them they actually sent me for review back in the day. And there's a master app you can connect it online, and then the master app will tell you exactly what percentage of games you have. Like it says I have 62 of 291 Dreamcast games, and my Dreamcast collection's worth $1,300. Roll on down to, well, my Genesis is now the most expensive one, but like Sega Saturn, I have 27 Sega Saturn games out of 283, and it's worth $1,500.
Nice.
Now the prices.
Oh, humble brag,
Yeah, well, the prices aren't always right because until they update the app. So if like right now, this app still has Death and Return of Superman for $14. Well, over the past 3 weeks, that thing has shot up to 60, 70, $80 complete, and I don't know why. I don't have a clue what happens to that one.
Unless those apps are updated like daily, just about, you're not going to be able to have it updated as much as you need it.
Right.
And that also is the problem with having a spreadsheet. Like, I mean, I don't have time like every week or so to go down the entire list and double check some, but I will periodically go and check some of my higher priced games to see if they've gone up or down, see if I need to tweak it. But usually I don't bother with, if something's in my sheet and it says it's a $6 game, I'm just going to skip right past it. It's probably not going to fluctuate much from there, but you never know, you may be surprised. Well, and that's usually when you hear, oh wait, what, this game's going for how much now? That's a $5 game.
Yeah. And I don't remember the price charting website. They actually have an app. You have to pay for it, but it actually updates on the fly if it connects online and pulls directly from their website. And you can track your entire collection that way too, and you can track price guides. I used that one for quite a while, but then it was like well, I think it was like $10 a year or something like that, and I let it lapse and didn't pay for it again. And these guys sent me these to review 2 or 3 years ago, and I've just always used them ever since. It's really cool because it has box art. It has
nice.
At least I can pull it up if I'm out somewhere and say, okay, this one's worth about that much. And maybe somebody's trying to overcharge me or something. I don't know. But that's price charting is what I use. Like I said, I can't remember the name of that other one. Some people go by the other website, but I don't like it as well. But
is it? It's like collection, or I think it's just, oh crap. Yeah. I used to have to use it for certain ones because I couldn't find them in certain sites. But I would use it more so, not so much for value, but for publisher information and stuff like that.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it.
Rarity Guide.
Yeah, that's it.
Is it Rarity Guide?
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah,
they do like cards and pogs and all sorts of weird shit.
They do all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing is imports. I was once again laying in bed last night flipping through eBay. This is what I do. It's either, well, no. Before I go to sleep, it's usually I'm either watching YouTube or I'm looking through eBay on stuff because I have a problem. And I was sitting there flipping through, and Panzer Dragoon Saga, the Japanese version, I can buy it for $16 on eBay all day long. The American version is $500. And everybody's like, well, what's the price difference? Well, the big price difference with the Saturn is it sold a whole lot better in Japan, and there's a lot
probably
more.
Made a lot more.
Yeah, they made a lot more copies of it. But if I can only read Japanese, then that would be great. I could get them cheap.
That's the big thing for me. That's what I think is the biggest driving force behind a game's price when you're importing. Because, like you said, if you don't read Japanese, you don't understand Japanese, you're not going to be able to play through the game.
Right.
I mean, granted, with some systems now you have like the Retron 5 that ports in translation patches, which is really nice. So you might see some of them go up, but typically what I notice is games like platformers and shooters and puzzle games, those are going to be kind of pricey, especially if they were games that weren't released here. Right. If it has a U.S. counterpart, a lot of times it'll be a little bit cheaper. But if it wasn't released here at all, a lot of them you're going to spend a lot. But games like RPGs like Bahamut Lagoon and stuff like that, those are going to be dirt cheap because you have to be able to read Japanese. You're not going to be able to play. Again, you could get the translation patch now for like Retron 5 and other type consoles that are similar. But by and large, I think that to me, in my opinion, is the biggest driving force in the price is can can non-Japanese speaking and reading folks play them. The more they can play them, the more expensive the game is.
Yeah, I mean, like Mario there's nothing. It's all the exact same game.
Right.
And that's what I really like about my Retron 5. That's really the only reason why I keep my Retron 5 around, is because eventually I want to get into buying more import games. I have a ton of import games on the Saturn because there was so many good Saturn games that never came out in America. All these Gundam games and stuff that are awesome, and I have them over there, and they're pretty playable. I just don't know what the story is. They're like action games or something like that I can play and have fun with, but it's like when they start telling the story, it's like, I don't know what he's saying. I don't know what that is. I do have one Gundam game. It's actually a strategy role-playing game, and I have never been able to do anything with it because it's so heavily, Japanese that I don't know. And
if it's text-heavy, forget about it.
Yeah. But, the Shinobi game for Shinobi Legions for the Saturn, I bought a copy of it from Japan for like $20. And then I ended up having someone give me a copy of the American version, and now it's, and it's worth $100. And it's just like, it's still good enough that you could play it. It's just a Shinobi game. You don't need to know Japanese to play it,
Right. It's a platformer hack and slash. I mean, you don't. Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. Like, I have a couple. I got Puzzle Bobble 3, which is basically just Bust a Move, but that's a version we didn't get.
Right.
I have Golden Axe the Duel, which did come out here, but the price difference is pretty significant, and it's a fighting game, so you don't really need to.
Yeah.
You don't really need to read. And I have one of the Capcom collections. There's 4 Capcom Generations discs.
Yeah.
And they have like really old arcade games, like 4 games on each disc, and I have one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, but importing is a way to go. If you have a way to play imports and it's something that you can absolutely play without having to, trudge through a bunch of Japanese, it's worth it.
Yeah, and and with the Retron 5 now, it's like it's so easy to go on the web and download the translation patch, save it to the SD card, then pop the actual game in the Retron 5, and boom, it automatically does it. Yeah, I bought Dragon Quest 1 and 2 or 2 and 3. I think it was 2 and 3. Just to see when the Retron came out. I think I paid $1 for each of them on eBay.
Nice.
I paid more for shipping than I did the games. And then I downloaded the patch, popped them in, boom. I had Dragon Warriors 2 and 3, for
a couple bucks each.
Yeah, for a couple bucks each. Yeah, So, I mean, I think that's a really cool thing, as long as you can find translations for them.
Because I mean, some games might be so obscure that there just is not a fan translation out there. So
and I have the Game Gear adapter for the Retron 5, and I have a box copy of Phantasy Star Adventure for the Game Gear.
Oh, nice!
And that's all text based. I just wanted it because at that time I was buying everything Phantasy Star. At one point, I had everything Phantasy Star except for the Phantasy Star collection on the Saturn. It was just because it was an outrageous price. But I don't know if the translation patches work for the Game Gear games yet or not. I have to try that out.
I don't know,
because I know there's a translation patch for it, because I have it on my EverDrive, and it's translated, so I know there's a patch out there. Let's see, Electric. Have you guys played River City Ransom games?
Yeah, Kunio-kun. I'm aware that there's quite a few of them, and I played River City Ransom, obviously, but I know that we also got Super Dodgeball is in the same universe, and I think there was another game that we got that was in the same universe. But yeah, that's a huge series in Japan.
Yeah,
and we recently just got a new one on 3DS, I believe, but that one was kind of limited quantities. It was like River City Adventures or something like that.
Something like that. I'd forgot about that game.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Renegade and World Cup. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there was a lot of those, but it's like. We were in Columbus, Ohio, last weekend, and there's a retro game shop that's called Warp Zone up there that I like to go to when we're there. I don't get to go there very often. They have a lot of import games. They used to have a box of $5 import games, and I looked at the NES games. It's just $5 a piece. We're just random games. And I told the wife, I said, "Thank God we don't live up here." She said,
I'd be
"Why?"
broke
I said,
all
"I'd be
the
broke.
time.
I'd come in here and just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's $25 worth of games. And I would just pull them out and take them home and see what they were. I wouldn't even research, find out what they were or anything like that. That's where I got my Shin Megami game for the Super NES.
Nice.
Because I think I paid like $15 for it and brought it home, downloaded the translation patch, and boom, I could play it on my Retron 5. Of course, now I have an EverDrive, so I can play whatever I want.
Sure.
It's like still like
semantics.
Yeah, I like having that cartridge. I do still like having that cartridge, but I mean, other than that, I can't think of anything else that we could really talk about. Other than sometimes video game collecting is weird.
Yeah, it's expensive. It's tedious. It's a lot of work sometimes, but it's awesome.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Especially if you're trying to do something specific. If you're wanting this one specific thing,
like I want to have a complete Kirby collection or something. Yeah. That's when it gets exciting.
Yeah. It's like you were talking about Golden Axe Duel for Saturn. Somebody gave me that game.
Nice.
Back in the day, I didn't even know what it was. I don't think I ever played it. I just put it in the box. Somebody walked in. One of the guys I worked in with work literally was getting rid of his retro game collections. This was 10 years ago, and he said, "Here, guys." He knew me and the other guy there. He's like, "Split them amongst yourselves." I was like, "How much you want for them?" "Nothing." And there was Contra Force, all the Castlevanias, Batman the arcade game for Saturn, Golden Axe Duel, and the one guy said, "I just want Zelda, and that's all I want." I was like, "Okay, I'll take the rest of them." And
I'm not even gonna look through this till I get home. I'll take everything.
And at the time back then, it was like no big deal because nobody was paying that crazy prices for them. So
sure,
I think the Funko Land was still closing down, and he got a bunch of those cheap at Funko Land, and then just dumped them. Hey, his loss is my gain. But
absolutely,
yeah. I mean, it's an interesting time to be collecting. What would you have any advice for somebody just wanting to start collecting? What would you?
I'd say try to figure out what you want to collect. Don't start collecting everything. You're gonna go broke real fast
and crazy.
Right. So pick a system that you want to collect for, but don't necessarily limit yourself to it. Look for lots, look for bulk. If there's 10 games, if you want to build up a collection and there's someone selling 10 games for a decent price and you think, oh, you'll play like one or two of those games, go for it. I mean, don't go crazy and spend all your money. Naturally, you don't want to do that with any hobby, but go for bulk. But keep mindful of what you actually want to collect for. If you want to go for a Sega Genesis collection, start seeking out Sega Genesis games. Check your Craigslist, check flea markets, yard sale flyers. Just look around. They're out there. You just got to put in the work.
Yep. I use Let Go a lot around here.
Let Go or Offer Up.
Yeah. And when I was in Winston a couple of weeks ago, and I stayed the night there, and I was going on Let Go just to see what there was, and just in the Winston area, just like 20 miles from the hotel I was in. Holy fright. There was so much. I was afraid to stretch it out to 100 miles because then that would have brought in High Point and Greensboro, and I had no cash. So but yeah, I mean, that's my advice. Craigslist, flea markets. In my area, it's more flea markets and yard sales, and not so much Craigslist. A lot of people just don't utilize Craigslist, but sometimes just let friends know that, hey, I'm starting to collect video games. If you see any, let me know or grab them for me or whatever.
Yeah, just be like, hey, you have any old video games lying around you're looking to get rid of?
Yeah.
I'm always looking to buy. And that's what I tell everybody. Yeah. And they find stuff. They're like, hey, I thought, do you want this? I'm like, yeah, I'll take it. Make a deal. I'm like, hey, let me know if you find anything else. And if you got friends that are selling stuff, I am looking to buy.
And that's what I do, on Let Go or Facebook. Here I'll see something real good price. Hey, I'll meet you here. And there was a guy I met, and he was like, "Yeah, I buy storage lockers. Hey, and I have cards for the website, It's got my email and everything on it. I'm like, hey, you've got me on Facebook Messenger. If you find any more, just shoot me a message. Don't even post them. Just shoot me a message, and I'll say, hey, I'm interested. No, I'm not. If I'm not, go for it. But let me know. I had a guy, another guy locally here on Facebook that I met up with and did some trading or did a buy, and he messaged me the other day, and he's like, I'm going to have a bunch of my games probably coming up. So my neighbor down the street sold me a tote of Super NES games. He goes, I didn't even look at them. I just offered her a price on them and took it. Come home and it had Earthbound in it.
Oh, that's a good find.
Yeah, I was like, holy fright. I mean, it had all kinds of stuff. It was unbelievable, and it was just somebody that it was down the street from him that knew, an older lady that knew that he collected video games, and she was cleaning out the attic and found a tote of video games and said, he didn't even tell me how much he paid for it. I didn't even ask. I didn't want to know,
Sure.
It was probably $50 if I had to guess. But
some people get that crazy luck, but if you don't ask around, you don't know. You're not going to find the deals.
Exactly. You're not, or and that's just it. Just kind of ask around. So
yeah.
Well, I mean, I think this was a really good topic to talk about, and we'll probably revisit it. In a couple, 10, 20, however many episodes we go. Maybe this time next year, if we're still recording, we'll go back and see what's changed, what's popular. We'll try to keep up on the cutting edge of what's going on in the retro gaming community.
Trendy.
Yeah, it's very trendy stuff. Yes. So. But yeah, if like I say, we're live streaming it right now on Twitch on the Gamers Lounge. Danny is simulcasting it on his channel. So if you want to join in when we record, usually we try to record 2 episodes at one time. We're not this time, but
vacation cut into schedule and stuff. So.
Yeah, summertime's hard to try to get nail down time anyway. So once winter comes and everybody's in for the winter time, we'll probably do it a lot more often. But for now, I'll try to follow us on Twitter. It's at Back2Bits TO. Back2Bits, so you can keep up on when we do live stream. I'll tweet it out there. You can follow me on Twitter at JCMeadows94. Danny's at DPadDanny. His Twitch channel is twitch.tv /DPadDanny. And how often a week are you streaming now? 2 or 3 times?
Usually at least, give or take if I'm busy that week or whatever. But yeah.
Yeah, so
semi-frequently.
He's always got some cool retro stuff going on. I try to drop in when I get a chance and at least let it run in the background. Because like I said, then I end up watching whatever he's playing for 15 minutes, and then I go, I'm just gonna go play it myself.
Right. Hey, and you know what? I'm happy with that. If people aren't going to actively watch, if I can at least encourage them to play or inspire them to play some classic games, that's what it's all about.
Well, and a lot of times you'll have something that I'll have not even any knowledge about, even though I have an EverDrive with every game on it. It's like sometimes I don't know what games are what, and I just randomly have it pick me a game, and you'll be playing something off the wall that I've never heard of before, and I'll try it out and be like, oh, wow, that's actually pretty fun. I like that. Yeah. And that's always cool. Oh, and one thing, we actually have a email. You can email us retro@the-gamers-lounge.com. Write in, if you got questions or topic ideas or anything like that. Send it to us. Let us know. Let us know what you think. Anything like that. That'd be cool. So, all right. Well, we're going to call that a show, and we will catch you guys next time.
Take care.
That's just a little over an hour, like 2 minutes. That's perfect.
Perfect.